Back to every stretch to try. In today's class, we learn how to make this beautiful V yoke drape cow dress. Okay, it's a boo dress and it has this beautiful cow on both sides. You can see what we have here, and then we tape this with a black fabric on the neckline, on the sleeve area, and also on the hem of the dress. It's a very simple tutorial, and you can see the drapes that will form here, and it's really beautiful. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is to create our yoke. So for the yoke, depends on how long you want it to be. That's where you want it to stop. So mine, I want it to stop around 13 inches, which is around my underbust area. Okay, yours can be longer than that. So that's the length I have here, and I'm cutting the front and back together, so I have it folded into four. So you fold into two first, then you're going to fold again. It's not going to have a zipper, so we don't need a zipper allowance. So after folding it into four, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, so I have 7.5 inches there. And then here I'm going to take my neckline measurement. My neckline is 3 inches by 1 for the back and 3 inches by 3 inches for the front. So I'm going to connect that using my curved ruler. That's for the back and this is for the front. So here I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll connect that as well. Okay, so you want to have allowance on your shoulder, you are going to leave like half an inch on top so that you can add your allowance for your shoulder slope. I'm just going to add everything underneath, so it's going to still cover for it. So now the next thing I'm going to do, remember this is like a V-shaped yoke. So from where my shoulder stops here, I'm going to take my ruler and then connect it in a V-shape form to my M, the M of the yoke, like this. Okay, I hope you can see that. So after connecting like that, I'm going to come in with my scissors and then I'll cut this off. So it is that simple. So after cutting it off, I'm going to cut out my shoulder slope as well. Then you cut your back neckline first. So after cutting the back neckline, I'm going to remove the back, and then for the front neckline, remember this does not have a zipper. For ease of wearing, I'm going to come down by around 4 to 5 inches from where my neckline step stops, and then I'm going to create like a V shape there. So you can create whatever shape that you want. Just make sure that whatever it is that you are doing is going to make it easy for you to wear the dress. So now I'm going to cut out my neckline. So this is the shape that I have for my front, and this is the shape I have for the back. You can modify your neckline anyhow you want. Okay, so now the next thing is for us to move straight to the lower part of the dress. Okay, so I folded my fabric into four. I'm using 4 yards of fabric, so I folded it into two first, and then I later folded it into four, just like this. Okay, so to know the length that we are going to work with, the full length that I'm working with for this dress is 60 inches. Okay, remember I have already taken out 13 inches for the upper part, so 60 minus 13, I'm going to be left with around 47 inches or so. Okay, so now if I have 47 inches, it means the total length, my yoke has taken 13 inches already. The yoke have taken 13 inches, so the total length that I'm left with for the lower part is 47 inches. But on the hem of the dress, I'm going to tape it with the same fabric I used for my yoke. So for my taping, I'm going to be using around 5 inches for taping. So if I deduct the 5 inches from the 47, I'm going to be left with around 42 inches. So now my fabric, now I'm going to fold it into four, and I'm going to measure 42 inches. So now when I'm measuring the 42 inches, I'm going to measure from the M upward like this. Okay, so if I have my 42 inches like this, the next thing now is to shape out my yoke. So my 42 inches from here to the hem of my dress. Okay, so and then I folded it using the yard. So the length of the fabric I'm working with is 60 inches, and then the yard is 4 yards. So by the time I fold it into 4, I'm going to be having 1 yard on each of my 4 folds. So that's 36 inches by 60 inches. That is what I have. So now to shape it, I have my miniature bodies. Remember, we cut it by connecting our neckline, shaping our shoulder slope, and then connecting V like this. So the next thing I'm going to do now, where my measurement stops here, that's where my yoke stop, remember. So this is going to make up the rest. I'm going to bend my fabric. You can also measure what you have here, and then I'm going to connect it in a slantly V shape like this. So now you're not going to measure exactly what you have here, because I want to have some gathering there. So whatever it is that you measure here, you're going to add, you can multiply it by 2 if you have enough fabric, but I'm just using 4 yards, so I'm just going to add around 8 to 12 inches, between 8 to 12 inches to it, so that I can gather the excess. So now when you're measuring this part now, you slant it in a way that is going to be slanted. Remember, the only part that is taken out is your 13 inches. I don't know if you understand this. On our basic bodies, we use 13 inches for the length. Okay, so this length here from here to here is 13 inches, but remember that your shoulder is still on the 16 inches mark because we slanted it. There is no armhole here, so it means your 60 inches has to cover this part, or also, because the from the yoke is only the center that got to, it's only the center part that got to 13 inches. The other part, which is the shoulder part and every other part, did not get up to 13 inches. It did not measure up to 13 inches. I don't know if you understand that. That is why I'm slanting it to the beginning again. Okay, so the same way I have slanted this now is the same way I'm going to slant my on my main fabric. So I have done this. My actual measurement stops around here, but the fabric is a multicolored fabric, so you may not see it with my actual measurement. My 42 inches stops around here. So the next thing I did was to shape this like this, and then I measured this. So this is where my actual measurement stopped. Okay, my actual measurement stopped here, so I just slanted it all the way to this part, and then I added 10 inches extra. So this is where my 10 inches extra stops now. Okay, and then I have this left for my sleeve. So no, so again on the paper, my slanting stops around here, and this leftover that I have here is going to be for your sleeve. So now to create the cowl effect that you have on that dress, from where this sleeve stops, you are going to create your sleeve opening. So the sleeve opening is going to be around here, so you just measure around that place loosely. So I measured this and I have about 12 inches. 12 divided by 2 is going to give me 6 inches. So on this upper part now, I'm going to measure my 6 inches downwards, and then I'll add 2 inches allowance to it for joining the shoulder, and then joining it on this lower part. So after measuring my 2 inches, this is what my 6 plus 2, which is 8 inches, this is where it's going to stop. So once it stops there, the next thing is for me to shape this gown to form my cowl. So to shape it, from my shoulder area here, I'm going to measure down 30. I want it to be around my knee area. So my knee area is around 36 inches. So from there, I'm going to measure down 36 inches. So I'm going to assume my 36 inches stops here. So on the 36 inches, you're going to do your hip divided by 4. The hip I'm working with is 46 inches. 46 inches divided by 4 is going to give me 11 and a half. So for ease of working, I'm going to add 5 inches extra to that, and I'm going to have around 16 and a half. So I'll approximate that to 17 inches. So I'm going to measure the 17 inches here, and then I'll also measure the 17 inches on the hem. So I'll have something like this. Then after measuring, the next thing is for me to connect it in a shape, in a circular, in a bent form, just like we create our cowl. So let me do this on the right side, because I already have a lot of marking. So here, this is where my length stops. From here to here is my length, and then after creating my slant for the yoke, it stops around here. So now this is going to be my sleeve. So the next thing, from upper part here, I'm going to measure my sleeve opening of 8 inches, and then on that point now, I'm going to measure my knee. So on my knee, I measure my hip divided by 4 plus 5 inches, and that stops there. So now this same measurement, hip divided by 4 plus 5. I measured it on the hem and I connected it into a straight line. So the next thing now is for me to connect from my sleeve opening just like this all the way to my hip. I hope you understand that. So I'm going to cut that out, and I'm sure by the time I cut it out you understand it better, because this is actually very big and my table is small. Yeah. So I've gone ahead to cut it now, and you can see the shape. I'm holding it down with pins because I'm using a chiffon fabric. So this is the shape that I have, and this is the straight part. So I have gone ahead to cut out the neckline as well. So this is it on the paper. I've cut my neckline, I cut the straight part, and then I bent it towards the sleeve opening. So on the sleeve opening area I came in by 1 inch before I bend it, because I also want to tape it on the sleeve with my black fabric. So to make it easier for me, I had to come in by 1 inch. So now this is the shape that you have by the time you open it up. So now the next thing is for us to sew it. So now the first thing you need to do is to prepare your yoke by cutting out facing for your yoke. You cut out facing for your yoke and then you turn it out. So after turning it out, the next thing I'm going to do now, this v-shaped part, I'm going to gather it round to fit into what I have. Remember, I added XX to it. Okay, so now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine. Let me just remove my pin. Okay, so after turning out with facing, this is, you have your basic fabric like this. So this is the center part, and this is the center part of the yoke of the main bodies as well. This is the center part of the yoke. You can notch it. So now if you match them together, you will see that after sewing it, you are still going to have excess of this. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and gather all of my main bodies to fit into my yoke for both front and back. So by the time I gather it, you will see it better. Okay, so I've gone ahead to gather them to the yoke, and you can see what we have. So this is what I was explaining. You can see that this lower part, that's the center front, is the only part that got to 13 inches. You can see that the shoulder slope area did not get up to 13 inches. Okay, that was why we slanted it that way. So basically what I did using my paper to explain was just to gather this small yoke. Okay, the small v that we have here, by the time you put it here, you will see that there are going to be excess. So now I went ahead to gather it to fit into this so that I can have something like what I have here. So I gathered for the back as well, and this is what the back looks like as well. I've gone ahead to gather it. So the next thing to do now is to place it right side facing right side, and then I'll go ahead and sew it on the shoulder area, which is here, and then I'm going to sew it on the side, leaving my sleeve opening. So I'll just sew it inwards like this and then cuff it all the way down. So after doing this, I'm going to tape the sleeve area round with my black, and then I'll also tape the lower part with my 5 inches, and then the dress is ready. Okay, so I've gone ahead to sew it on the shoulder and the side. So I taped my sleeve area with the same fabric I used for this yoke. So this is about 2.5 inches, and then I doubled it so that it's going to be neatly finished. So okay, so I have about 2.5 inches here, and also on the hemline I taped it with the 5 inches that I removed. So I'm just going to use my bias to finish it up. If you have enough fabric, you can double that as well so that it can be strong. So this is what it looks like. The next thing is for you to iron it flat so that it's going to come out really nice and flat for you. So I think I'm just going to cut my facing now and then use it to turn it over, but I don't have enough fabric, so I'm going to use another fabric to do that. So now I'll take this to the mannequin so that you can see what it looks like. This is what we have on the back. Remember, the back is just a regular neckline. So this is what the dress looks like on the mannequin. You can see our v-shape yoke. It stops around 13 inches, which is about my under bust, and then this is the sleeve area. So I taped it like this, so you can see the cowl effect that we have on our sleeve. You can see the shape that we created on both sides of the sleeve to form this cowl, and then the gathers that we have here allows us to have all these drapes that we have there. And then on the hemline I taped it as well with my black fabric. So this is what it looks like. You can see how beautiful it looks and how simple it is to make this. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.